Constitución, and over there the Presidential Palace, or as we call it, Moneda Palace. Do you know what moneda means in Spanish? It means coin. Moneda, with a D, moneda. We are so bad with pronunciation in Chile. It's not moneda. Moneda, it means coin, and we're so lazy. And that the building used to be the Mint House of Chile, the place where all the money was made. That's why we all Chileans call it the Coin Palace, the Moneda Palace. Our current president now is Sebastián Piñera. He's a right-wing conservative guy. He's the fourth richest guy in Chile. He was elected last December. He went into office last week. The previous president was socialist, was a woman, Michelle Bachelet. And in Chile, the law is clear. You can be the president as many times as you want, but never consecutively, never in a row. That's why she had to leave. She couldn't be re-elected in a row. In the past, though, our previous president, Bachelet, was very admired. She was such a brave political activist during the dictatorship. Have you ever heard about Salvador Allende? Allende was one of the first socialist presidents elected in a democratic way in the whole world. It was back in the year 1970. So you had Richard Nixon in the States, Fidel Castro in Cuba, Cold War. Allende was close to Fidel Castro, although I believe personally that Allende, more than being a socialist, in my opinion, he was a dreamer. What I like about Allende, I feel his interest in the people was authentic. I feel he was an honest man. Well, few things he did. For example, he nationalized copper. Copper is the main resource in Chile. Before Allende nationalized it, there were so many international companies coming here to Chile, getting all the copper, getting all the profits, and Chile was quite a poor country. So it made sense back in those days, at least, that Allende stood up and said, I see people suffering in my country, copper belongs to Chile, all international companies must leave the country. He made education open and free in every single primary and secondary school. But it's true as well that he expropriated lands and factories from the rich people. Many rich people got very annoyed with Allende. And it's true as well, and I think it was his biggest mistake. He tried to make deep changes in Chile in a very short time. He was precisely 1,000 days in power. And for example, in the year 1972, there were kilometric queues in the informal markets in Santiago to buy 1 cup of sugar, 1 piece of bread, whatever is basic. And suddenly Chile, and especially Santiago, was completely divided among the people that said, Allende is with us, the socialist dream is alive, we must hold on, this is a complot of the CIA. And unfortunately, it's true. Hundreds of documents are being declassified, even by the own CIA, telling how they came here to Chile and how they had secret meetings with the richest families in Chile in order to make the economy collapse in purpose, in order to get rid of Allende. And they were successful. What they did, an artificial truck driver strike. There was food and there were supplies, but they weren't coming to the capital, to Santiago. After a few weeks, people started getting desperate. People started throwing corn outside the military buildings. My parents did that, and today they regret. They used to throw corn outside the military buildings, just like saying, we are starving here, and you chickens are not doing a thing for us. In the end, 11 o'clock in the morning of the 11th of September of the year 1973, 4 Hawker Hunter airplanes, our own Air Force, started bombing our own presidential palace with the president inside of it. They found Allende dead inside with a bullet in his head. Now we know, it's at least the official version, that he committed suicide because they exhumed Allende's body like 12 years ago, but there are still many people skeptical about this subject in Chile. Many people still believe, to be honest, I believe as well, that Allende was killed inside the palace by our own militaries. But well, 1973, Allende died. Augusto Pinochet. Have you heard about Pinochet? He was the main general back of those days in Chile. He took the power and he was supposed to stay there 1 year as a transition. He spent 17 years in charge, and almost no one can deny nowadays that it was a dictatorship. It was money again, jobs again, economic development again. True. Many people in Chile got extremely rich during the dictatorship. They privatized and they sold as much as they could. And it's interesting because many people in Chile ran out of the poverty line during the dictatorship. That's why today, in the rich and in the poor areas, you will find plenty of people, many of them who are nowadays secretly still supporting and loving Pinochet. But I believe, and I would say the majority of the population in Chile, at least younger than 40 years old, believe the same thing, that the price was very high. Chileans were tortured, killed, disappeared, just because they thought in a different way. In Santiago, for instance, there was a curfew for years. After 8 o'clock in the night, you weren't supposed to be walking on the street, otherwise you go to the police station. That cultural movement for 20 years, teachers chased, artists killed. For example, I have a daughter, she's 12 years old already. One of her grandfathers, my ex-father-in-law, was assassinated during the dictatorship, so I'll have to give some explanation very soon to my daughter. And I remember I was a kid, I remember the militaries with their shotguns on the streets. I remember the atmosphere in Santiago, gray, full of fear. I remember as a kid talking to my father, "Hey Dad, what's going on?" "No, Felipe, we don't talk about this." In Chile, there are still more than 1,000 people missing because they threw them with handcuffs, blinded from helicopters to the Pacific Ocean, or buried in the Atacama Desert and never been found. And you go to Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, Brazil, same thing, dictatorships all over South America, especially during the 70s and the 80s. In the case of Chile, in the end, Pinochet received a lot of international pressure, so he decided to call for free elections. In the year 1988, there were two options. Yes, you want Pinochet to stay, or no, you want him to leave. There's a good movie, if you're interested, called No, N-O, that talks about the referendum. It's really good, very accurate, with Gael Garcia Bernal, the Mexican actor. He's there, quite a mainstream movie, in my opinion, really good. I think it's still in Netflix, and Chileans voted no. 55% against 45%, and there were jingles and songs and campaigns. I remember well, many people voted yes, so Pinochet could stay in power because they thought there were cameras inside the boxes for the vote. But Pinochet accepted the result of the referendum and he left. And he became, this is unbelievable, he became the main general of the army again. The same he used to be before the dictatorship, and then he became a permanent senator. He was untouchable for justice in Chile for 15 years, until he mistook in the year 2005, he went to London. Do you remember, Simon, London? 2005, he was there, Pinochet. He was there for some shopping and some medical tests. He was tried to be arrested in London by a Spanish judge. Few Spanish people were killed here during the dictatorship. Pinochet spent a year and a half trapped inside an hospital in London, ill or supposed to be ill, in a wheelchair, protected by Margaret Thatcher, close friend of Augusto Pinochet. In the meantime, in Chile, people were singing in the squares, "We don't care where, Judge Pinochet now." On the other hand, people were so nervous, especially rich people. "Hey, okay, Chile is not a colony anymore. We'll bring him back and we'll do our own trial." We brought Pinochet back. First thing Pinochet did in the airport of Santiago, after he got out of the plane, he stood from his wheelchair, he walked, and he said hello to the people. 1 year after, though, he died. Natural causes, 2006. I will never forget the funeral. I was here. It wasn't a state funeral, but it was a military funeral. 3 days long. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people on the streets. People fighting between each other. People fighting against the police. People crying and singing, "Oh my general, he saved us from communism. Our hero is dead." And many more people crying, but with cups of champagne, like celebrating. After 20 years, he finally passed away. You can imagine the words they used. Chile was quite a divided country for a long while. We came back to democracy in the year 1990. It's been 28 years of democracy again, and I believe our wounds are finally healing. Among all the generations, still, in my opinion, very divided. I would say younger people, they just want to move on, not to forget so it won't happen again. But there are other things going on right now in Chile, like for instance, new president, the second week of our new president, Sebastián Piñera. And now we can actually get closer to the palace. We can get closer. Maybe you want to take a better picture of it. Let's walk in that direction.